1. Happiness? It's simple. I have a friend who decided to wait until she was old enough to get married. Before reaching that age, she firmly chose to just move in with her boyfriend. After a while, she had her first child, yet she still wasn't at the right age to marry. A few years ago, as she was about to turn 35, she told her still not official husband that it was finally a good time to get married. She kept up with her yoga practice to maintain the perfect waistline for her wedding dress. Her partner laughed and said, "You're being childish. Once a woman is over 30, every year is a good year to get married and any day is a lucky day to get hitched. Plus, why should we spend extra money on a wedding now when everything is going so well?" It turns out, happiness lies in what you think, how you live, not determined by which stars you were born under, whether you marry on a lucky day or find someone compatible with your zodiac sign. Often, happiness isn't even related to love or marriage. It's simply about being content with life, knowing your limits, not demanding more and not imposing unnecessary constraints on yourself. 2. Buddhist tales. Borrowing money. In life, it's common for everyone to be asked to lend money at least a few times. Often, it's hard to say no for various reasons. But what's the hardest thing to do? It's borrowing and lending. Naturally, you will always value those who lend you money in tough times as important people. It's not just about money, but any help at all is incredibly valuable. Today, such generous people are rare. If you find one, you should cherish them for a lifetime. The person lending you money during tough times isn't doing it because they have too much money to spend, but because they want to help you in that difficult moment. What they lend you isn't just money. It's a piece of their heart, their trust, their encouragement, and their belief in your potential and investment in your future. Hoping friends will trust you unconditionally is challenging. Losing someone's trust is a significant loss in life. Please hold integrity in high esteem. The sincerity of friends is a treasure for a lifetime. Also, remember, if someone always insists on paying during outings, it's not because they have extra money, but because they value their sincere relationship with you more than money. If they give you a better deal in a partnership, it's not because they are foolish, but because they are generous. If they always take on the hardest tasks at work, it's not to show off, but because they are responsible to the group. If they apologize during disagreements, it's not because they are at fault, but because they know what's more important to preserve than their own ego. If someone is willing to help you, it's not because they owe you anything, but because they see you as someone worth respecting. People help you because of a valuable connection, not out of obligation, so don't take it for granted. 3. The only real person at the wedding. There were quite a few people attending the wedding. The neighbor called over his worker and said, "Hey, go check how many people are at that wedding." The worker went over. He placed a log at the doorway and sat on the wall to wait for the guests to leave. They started leaving, and everyone who went out stumbled over the log, cursed, and continued on their way. Only an old lady stumbled on the log, then turned back to push it aside. When the worker returned to his boss, the boss asked, "Were there a lot of people there?" The worker replied, "Just one person, and it was an old lady." "Why is that?" "Because I put a log on the doorstep and everyone tripped over it, but no one bothered to move it. Any sheep would do the same. But one old lady moved the log aside so others wouldn't trip. Only a real person would do that. The old lady was the only real person there." 4. Echoes from the deep forest. There was a mischievous boy who often got scolded by his mother. One day, angry with his mother but unable to insult her directly, he ran to a valley next to a dense forest. He gathered all his strength and shouted, "I hate you." To his surprise, an echo came back from the forest. "I hate you." Terrified, he ran back to his mother crying. He couldn't understand why someone in the forest would hate him. His mother took his hand and led him back to the forest, telling him to shout, "I love you." Strangely enough, as soon as he finished speaking, an echo replied, "I love you." It was then that his mother explained to him, "My dear, that's a law of life. You get what you give. If you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. If you hate others, they will hate you. If you love others, they will love you in return." Hatred always breeds hatred, and violence always leads to more violence. Only love can create more love. Violence and hatred cannot reform society. Only true love can change people's hearts. Live nobly. Respond to hatred with love. The most beautiful echo of a loving act is always the echo of peace from deep within our souls. 5. Who knows how to eat sparingly? One day, the small animals in the forest decided to have a fun competition, a sparing eating contest. It wasn't about eating fast or eating a lot, but eating sparingly. Rabbit, hedgehog, and squirrel participated. The judges gave each contestant 10 beans. The one who could make their beans last the longest would win the prize. Rabbit ate 1 bean a day, lasting 10 days. Hedgehog ate half a bean each day, lasting 20 days. Squirrel, although small, finished all his beans in just 4 days and was sure to come in last. The judges waited for Hedgehog to finish his last half bean before joyfully asking Mr. Thrush, whose song could be heard far and wide, to announce, "The champion of eating sparingly is Hedgehog." Everyone cheered for Hedgehog. Just then, Squirrel stepped forward and said, "Excuse me, judges, I still have 2 beans left." Mr. Thrush asked, "Where are those 2 beans?" Squirrel replied, "Please follow me, judges." Leading the crowd to a small patch of land at the forest edge, Squirrel stopped. Seeing no beans in his hands, Mr. Thrush urged, "Where are your 2 beans?" Squirrel pointed at 2 small bean plants now sprouting leaves and stems and said, "Here they are, sir. I planted them 20 days ago." Everyone was amazed and exclaimed, "Wow, Squirrel is actually the winner." With those 2 bean plants, Squirrel would have hundreds more beans. 6. The rabbit outsmarts the tiger. Long ago, in a deep forest, there was a very scary tiger. Many animals had become its meals. The tiger really wanted to catch the rabbit to enjoy a good feast. One day, the rabbit was hopping along when it stumbled upon the tiger lying in wait. Suddenly, seeing the tiger, the rabbit panicked and ran. The tiger pounced and said, "Where are you going? Run right into my mouth, rabbit." The rabbit quickly thought of a plan and shouted, "Cakes!" "What? Cakes?" the tiger asked. "Yes. Mr. Tiger, please don't eat me yet. Let me give you 10 delicious cakes first, okay?" The tiger loved cakes. Trading 1 rabbit for 10 cakes seems fair. Thinking this, the tiger happily agreed. "Wait a moment," said the rabbit. "Here, bring the cakes here, Mr. Tiger. Quick, let me try one." The tiger urged impatiently. The rabbit held back. "Hey, don't rush, Mr. Tiger. Good things take time. We need to bake the cakes first." Then the rabbit started a fire to bake the cakes. "Tiger, how long must I wait?" "Count to 100 and the cakes will be ready," Rabbit told the tiger. As the tiger counted and smelled the delicious aroma, it couldn't wait any longer, grabbed a hot cake and swallowed it whole. The cake was too hot. It burned the tiger's mouth. The tiger roared, "Ouch! Mom!" The tiger, in pain, ran wildly into the deep forest. The rabbit jumped with joy. Ha ha! He fell for it. It turned out that the cake the tiger swallowed was just a red-hot stone. The burn was so severe that the tiger couldn't eat anything else. Even the mice that bumped into the tiger's legs were ignored, unlike before. But once the burn healed, the tiger went back to hunting small animals for food. On a very cold winter day, with snow piling up thickly, the rabbit suddenly met the tiger next to a soon-to-freeze pond. The tiger roared, "Okay, last time you made me suffer terribly. Let's see if I can crush you into pieces now." The rabbit said, "I don't feel like talking much today. I'm not worth eating anyway." "What do you mean by that?" the tiger asked. "Listen to me. I'm willing to offer you 1,000 fish as a gift." "What? 1,000 fish?" "Yes. If you do as I say, you can catch 1,000 fish." Thinking it over, the tiger agreed on the condition that the rabbit be tied to a tree. After being tied up, the rabbit told the tiger to dip its tail in the water and added, "Your beautiful tail is the best bait. Just wait and you'll see 1,000 fish bite your tail." You make a good point." The north wind blew fiercely. The tiger stood still, enduring the cold, waiting for the fish to bite. As the pond started to freeze, the tiger, facing away from the pond, didn't notice. "Tiger, is it time yet?" "Not yet. You've only caught 100 fish so far." Soon after, the ice solidified, trapping the tiger's tail in the ice. The rabbit saw this and told the tiger, "Now you've done it! You've caught 1,000 fish now." "Really?" "Use your strength and pull the fish up, Mr. Tiger." "How strange! Why is my tail so heavy?" the tiger complained. "The 1,000 fish biting your tail, of course it's heavy," said the rabbit. The tiger struggled but couldn't pull its tail out of the tightly frozen ice. The rabbit laughed loudly. "Ha ha! Caught a big tiger!" Eventually, the tiger realized it had been tricked by the rabbit, but it was too late. The tiger desperately flailed, while the rabbit had already bitten through the rope, tying it to the tree. "Mr. Tiger, you'll have to wait till next year when the snow and ice melt to get free." With that, the rabbit disappeared. "Woe is me!" the tiger cried out miserably.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
7. The Black Swan. Once upon a time, there were two siblings playing at home while their parents were out working in the fields. The younger brother was playing in the yard, and the older sister had just left the house to find some friends to join them. Suddenly, a black swan swooped down, snatched the little brother, and flew away. When the sister returned home and couldn't find her brother, she panicked and started to search for him. As she was running around looking for him, she came across an oven that was baking cookies. The cookies were sizzling, and the oven cried out, "Little girl, the cookies are about to burn. Help me, please." "I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I'm looking for my little brother," she replied, and kept running. But after hearing the intense sizzling, she ran back, quickly removed the cookies from the oven, and continued on her search. She ran faster, trying to find her brother, when she saw an apple tree heavily laden with fruit, its branches bending under the weight. "Little girl, please stop for a moment. Oh, it's so heavy with all these apples, my children. Help me a bit," the apple tree pleaded. "I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I'm looking for my little brother," she said as she continued running. But hearing the tree's deep sigh, she turned back, picked some apples to lighten its load, and then hurried on. Further along, she came across a small stream that was blocked by a large rock, stopping the flow of water. "Little girl, please stop for a moment. Help me move this rock blocking the flow," the stream begged. "I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I'm looking for my little brother," she replied as she ran on. But hearing the stream cry, she turned back, managed to move the rock aside so the water could flow freely, and then ran off again. She continued her search deep into the forest, looking everywhere but still no sign of her brother. As the sun was about to set, she became very worried. Suddenly she saw a hedgehog and asked, "Hedgehog, have you seen my little brother?" "Kind little girl, your brother has been captured by a wicked witch in that wooden house over there. The black swan took him to her. She's currently firing up the oven, getting ready to cook your brother for dinner." Hearing this, She almost cried, but followed the hedgehog to the witch's house. The witch was impatiently stoking the fire. Her brother was locked in a small room next to it. The girl climbed through a window, grabbed her brother, and both of them ran as fast as they could to escape. 8. The elephant rope. A man was walking past a group of elephants and stopped abruptly, surprised to see that these massive creatures were only held by small ropes tied to their front legs. There were no chains or cages. It was obvious that the elephants could, at any moment, break away from the ropes they were tied to. Yet, for some reason, they did not. The man noticed a caretaker nearby and asked why the elephants just stood there and didn't try to escape. "Oh," the caretaker replied, "when they are young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them. At that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they believe they cannot break away. They think the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free." The man was amazed. The animals could easily escape from their restraints, but because they believed they couldn't, they accepted their captivity. Like those elephants, many of us go through life believing we cannot achieve something, simply because we failed at it once before. We let numerous once-in-a-lifetime opportunities pass us by. You see, failure is just a part of the learning process. Never give up on the struggles of life just because you once failed. Keep moving forward with determination. 9. Such good little ants. Grandma Ant was old, living alone in her tiny nest under the ground. It was cramped and damp. Lately, she had been sick and groaning a lot. When the young ants were carrying food and passed by Grandma's house, they heard her groaning and quickly went to ask, "Grandma, why are you moaning like that?" "Oh, my arthritis is really troubling me. Plus, it's so damp and dark here, which makes it even worse, my dears." The young ants quickly said, "Then let us take you out to get some sunlight." The leader of the young ants directed them to carry a freshly fallen yellow leaf, and they all helped Grandma sit on it. Then they carried the leaf to a sunny and airy spot. Grandma Ant felt refreshed and comfortable. The young ants then split up to find a new home for Grandma. After a while, they came back and told her, "Grandma, we found you a new, dry home with lots of sunlight. Would you like to move there?" Touched, Grandma Ant said, "Oh, that would be wonderful." The ants gathered again to carry the leaf and moved Grandma Ant to a nearby sunflower. In her new home, Grandma was so happy she told the young ants, "Thanks to your help, I got to enjoy the sun and now have a new, beautiful home. I feel much better. You kids are so kind. Thank you so much." 10. The monster in the deep cave. Once upon a time, there was a knight who loved adventure. He came to a village that had a terrifying monster living in a deep cave. The brave knight promised that he would kill the monster. Of course, everyone tried to stop him, telling him that many brave knights had entered the cave before, but none had ever returned. Armed with a dagger, the knight grabbed a rope and slowly descended into the cave. Looking around, he saw several skeletons of those who had gone before him, all holding weapons, but it was hard to tell why they had died. Suddenly, there was a noise behind him. When the knight turned around, he was surprised. The monster appeared, but it was only the size of a rabbit. It was screaming and trying to puff itself up to look intimidating. The knight chased after it with his dagger, but quickly, the monster jumped into a nearby crevice. Of course, the knight followed, and to his surprise, inside the crevice where the monster had fled, there was a huge pile of gold and diamonds scattered all over the ground, while the monster had disappeared. It was an enormous and easily accessible treasure. Just a part of this treasure could make someone a rich king for life. The knight forgot all about the monster. But then, the knight faced another problem. How could he get this gold and diamonds out of the cave without a bag? And who would believe he had reached the bottom of the cave if he didn't bring back any proof? The smart knight had an idea. He would put a diamond in his mouth and climb out of the cave. Just one diamond for now. He would come back for the rest of the treasure later. He hurriedly picked the biggest diamond. Naturally, he had to puff his cheeks to hold it. Then he grabbed the rope he had used before and started climbing slowly. But the higher he climbed, the more tired he got, especially since he had to keep the large diamond in his mouth. Finally, too exhausted, he opened his mouth to breathe. Unfortunately, as he inhaled, the diamond shot down his throat and got stuck there. Unable to breathe, the brave knight let go of the rope, fell to the bottom of the cave, and died there among the skeletons. The monster in the cave turned out to be nothing terrifying. More horrifying was the monster within each person. The desire to possess sometimes leads to thoughtless actions. Do you believe that? 11. Fireflies and dewdrops. That night was moonless, but the sky was filled with bright stars. The firefly flew out from the bamboo grove into the rice field. Its light flickered in the dark, looking as beautiful as the twinkling evening star. The firefly swooped down to the edge of the field to catch some brown plant hoppers that were damaging the crops. After that, it flew up to a small mound, landed on a lucky grass blade, and enjoyed the cool autumn breeze while making its light shine brighter. Suddenly, the firefly noticed its friend, Dewdrop, swinging on a grass blade nearby. The firefly thought to itself, "Oh, Dewdrop is so beautiful." Then it flew around Dewdrop. Strangely, the closer it got, the more beautiful Dewdrop seemed. The firefly said, "Hello, Dewdrop. You look radiant and shiny like a gem." Dewdrop gently replied, "Dear firefly, I look bright because I reflect the light from the stars above, which might even be dimmer than your light. I think you are the most beautiful and brightest because you glow from within. You should be proud." The firefly responded, "You are too modest, Dewdrop, but thank you for your kind words. Well, I have to go catch those harmful plant hoppers now." As the firefly flew away, Dewdrop called out encouragingly, "Good luck with your important task, and may the fields thrive." 12. The beauty of the soul. Once upon a time, there was a very beautiful princess who took great pride in her looks and loved receiving compliments. Therefore, she asked her father, the king, to organize a contest to find the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, and he agreed. Short letters describing the beauty of various women were sent in. If a letter captivated the king, the beautiful woman it described would be invited to meet him. Hundreds of thousands of letters arrived, each lavishly praising the senders with hopes of winning the prize. Amidst enjoying the flood of compliments, the princess was furious when she read a letter that stated, "The most beautiful woman in the world to me is my mother. Her eyes always sparkle with kindness, her lips always carry a warm smile, and her calloused hands are like a fairy's wand, always making my wishes come true." Unlike the princess, who only cares about her beauty, my mother works all day to make her family and those around her happy. She is most beautiful when she smiles, when she sings me to sleep, but especially when she sweats under the harsh midday sun. I cannot compare my mother to anyone else in this world. Immediately, the princess summoned the author of the letter and asked her father to punish this presumptuous person. To their surprise, the author was just a boy, and even more surprisingly, the king teared up after reading the letter. He invited the boy's mother and ordered the boy to be executed as an example. "Your mother is a dark-skinned woman with dirty, muddy hands. How can you say she is the most beautiful woman?" the king exclaimed. Before the boy could respond, his mother cried and begged to die in his place. Meanwhile, the crowd gathered outside, pleading to die for the mother instead because she was the kindest and most beautiful person they had ever known. The sincere tears on the saintly face of the mother, filled with compassion, made the king relent, and he declared, "She truly is the most beautiful woman. I was only testing her." The mother and son joyfully embraced each other, while the king advised the princess, "You see, external beauty cannot compare to the beauty of the soul and love. Cultivate a compassionate heart, and you will always be beautiful in everyone's eyes, just like this mother." 13. Digging a tunnel through the earth. Two brothers, young boys, once decided to dig a deep hole in their backyard. As they were digging, other children came over to see and asked what they were doing. The boy, digging excitedly, replied that they wanted to dig a tunnel right through the earth. The other kids laughed and mocked the brothers. Nevertheless, the boys continued digging. After a while, one of the boys jumped out of the hole holding an old bottle filled with spiders, worms, and creepy insects in one hand, and in the other, he held up a bag of beautiful, sparkling stones that reflected the sunlight. He showed the other children the beautiful stones and proudly said, "Even if we don't manage to dig a tunnel through the earth, at least we found these gorgeous rocks, and I also got to conquer these gross bugs." Not every goal is fully achieved. Not every task ends in success. Not every effort is rewarded as it should be. Not every relationship lasts forever. Not every love is eternal. Not every dream becomes reality. But if you're always afraid and never dare to start, you'll never have the chance to embark on the path to success. You'll never even begin. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 14. 8 lies my mother told me. A mother's heart is forever great, the greatest thing in the world, unmatched by anything else. Once, while browsing foreign websites, I stumbled upon a small article like a child's heartfelt tribute to their mother. The lies she told were filled with love and sacrifice for her children. When we were young and poor, we didn't have enough food. My mom would often share her portion with me, saying, "Eat this to help me out. I'm not hungry." As I grew up, on her days off, she would go to the countryside to buy fresh fish for me to eat. The fish was delicious, but while I ate it, she would just pick at the bits stuck to the bones. When I saw this and offered her some fish, she would put it back in my plate, saying, "Eat up, I don't really like fish." In middle school, to afford our tuition, she took on extra sewing work. One winter night, I woke up at midnight and saw her still sewing by the dim light. When I told her to sleep because she had work the next day, she just smiled and said, "Go to sleep, dear. I'm not sleepy." When I had exams for high school, she took a day off to cheer me on at the school gate, standing in the hot summer sun for hours. When the exams ended, she quickly bought me a bag of cool, refreshing tea. The tea was strong, just like her deep affection. Seeing her dry lips and sweaty forehead, I offered her the tea, but she gently said, "Drink it, honey. I'm not thirsty." After my father passed away, she took on both parenting roles, relying on her sewing job to support us through school. Our neighbor, Mr. Lai, who repaired watches, often helped us out, sometimes carrying heavy items or giving us a little extra money for groceries. Despite the neighbors suggesting she remarry to ease her hardship, she refused, staying faithful to her role as a single mother, insisting, "I'm not in love." After my siblings and I graduated from college and started working, she retired to a small market stall to make a living. Although we sent her money, she always returned it, saying, "I have enough money." When I went to study abroad for 2 years, then stayed in the U.S. after earning a PhD, I enjoyed a comfortable life and wanted her to join me. But she declined, saying, "I'm not used to it there." In her final years, she became seriously ill and was hospitalized. I rushed from the U.S. to see her. After her surgery, she was very weak and barely breathing. Knowing she wouldn't survive, she waited calmly for the end, comforting me as I cried, "Don't cry, dear, I feel very peaceful." 15. Buddha's teachings on compassion. In relationships, it's common to have disagreements and view each other as adversaries. We often fail to put ourselves in each other's shoes to truly understand one another. Building on Buddha's teachings, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh offers us this advice. Among the practices Buddha taught, there's one that involves listening with a compassionate heart and speaking kindly. Listening compassionately can help us reconnect with empathy and understanding. Most people try to escape from themselves because we hardly know how to listen to our own suffering. When we use compassion to feel what others feel, we don't see their anger. Instead, we see their pain, and this understanding helps us empathize with their harsh words. Once we empathize, we should speak kindly and compassionately. I know you've suffered a lot, and I've done things that have hurt you without understanding your pain or mine. Help me understand your struggles. I don't want to continue making the same mistakes and causing you more pain. If we can talk to our loved ones with such compassionate and understanding language, they might open up more. Then, using the practice of compassionate listening, both of us can suffer less. When we suffer, we tend to think our pain is caused by others. We want to punish them because they make us suffer. But when we practice mindful breathing and look deeply into their suffering, we see that they too are victims of their own pain and need help, not punishment. Buddha's teachings on love and compassion. 16. Choosing life over wealth. A tale of wisdom and balance. Temptation is like a fog that clouds judgment. Even if you spend your whole life amassing all the money in the money of the world can't buy back your life. A fox found a chicken coop but was too fat to fit through the fence to get the chickens. So it starved for 3 days and finally got in. However, after gorging itself, it was too bloated to escape and had to starve for another 3 days to get out. In the end, it lamented that besides the brief pleasure of taste, it was essentially a waste of effort. Isn't life similar? We come into the world with nothing, and we leave it the same way. No one can take their wealth and fame with them after a lifetime of hard work. We spend our youth earning money, but money can't buy back our youth. We risk our lives for money, but money can't buy back our lives. We trade happiness for money, but money can't buy back our happiness. We spend time making money, but money can't buy back time. Even if you spend your whole life acquiring all the money in the world, it can't buy back your life. So, when it's time to work, work. When it's time to rest, rest. Enjoy working, enjoy life, cherish everything you have, love the people you care about, and live each day happily. Living one day happily is still living a day, and living one day unhappily is also living a day. So why not cherish everything and live each day to the fullest? 17. 7 keys to embracing life and overcoming challenges in your youth. 1. Believe in yourself. To trust others, you must first believe in yourself. Nobody is perfect, so don't dwell on your flaws. When you feel like giving up, think about your strengths and keep believing that you can achieve your goals if you really want to. 2. Dare to fail. Young people in their 20s have more time to correct their mistakes than those in their 50s. Therefore, don't be afraid of failure even though nobody wishes for it. Experiencing failure allows you to fully appreciate the sweetness of success. No one encourages failure, but always be ready to take a step back when necessary. Overcoming it will help you grow. 3. Forgiveness. Everyone makes mistakes, including you. Therefore, forgive others for their errors so that when you're in a similar situation, you might receive forgiveness too. 4. Never lose hope. Remember, being young means you have the chance to correct mistakes, start over, and keep striving. Even if you haven't succeeded yet, don't lose faith in tomorrow. Success is still ahead, as long as you don't give up hope. 5. Love life. Youth is the most beautiful time of life, and once it's gone, it doesn't come back. Enjoy life's simple pleasures, cherish what you have, and always look forward to the future. Don't let the stresses and concerns of life make you forget. Life is beautiful. Loving life is the catalyst that keeps you optimistic, joyful, and energized to do everything. 6. Make your own decisions. Many people wish they could go back in time to do things their way, but the truth is, time waits for no one. So, at least once in your life, make your own decision and take responsibility for it. Whether right or wrong, at least you won't regret living someone else's life. 7. Have a purpose. Youth is a priceless time to discover who you are, but it's common to feel lost if you haven't found your purpose yet. To avoid these negative feelings, set personal goals in your work and life. When you achieve these goals, you'll see how far you've come and how much you've progressed. At the very least, you'll know where you stand and what you need to aim for next. 18. You don't always have to be the winner. People who are overly competitive or always want to win tend to feel disadvantaged and never fully happy, no matter the outcome. If they lose, they become extremely disappointed, and if they win, it's just expected and nothing to celebrate. One thing they fail to realize is that true joy comes from overcoming your own challenges from the day before, not surpassing others. In 1972, Richard Nixon, representing the Republican Party, ran for re-election as President of the United States. He directed his campaign team to use every possible means to gather as many votes as possible. The most notorious act was Nixon's directive for illegal break-ins at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate building to install listening devices. Furthermore, his campaign staff engaged in numerous dirty tricks, which Nixon himself admitted were unethical. For example, they ordered hundreds of pizzas to be delivered to the office of an opposing candidate. They also spread false information about canceled meetings of competitors and called venues to cancel reservations made by the opposition. Nixon did these because he feared failure and was obsessed with winning at all costs, resorting to what were considered the lowest tactics of that time. Ironically, Nixon could have won without such schemes, despite the public opposition to the unjust Vietnam War under his administration. Because he couldn't face failure, he resorted to extreme measures and ultimately paid the price with his victory. He is remembered as one of the most scandal-ridden politicians in American electoral history. The Watergate scandal, later associated with Nixon, stands as the greatest disgrace among U.S. presidents. Competitiveness and an oversized ego often prevent many from feeling satisfied with their lives, because for them, no victory is enough, and failure is a terrifying abyss. People who are overly competitive often undervalue their success compared to those who bravely overcome challenges and accept their mistakes or failures. 19. The Book and the Coal Basket. There's a story from a remote mountain farm in eastern Kentucky where an old man lived with his grandson. Every morning, the old man would wake up early to read. He had some books he'd read over and over until they were worn out, but he always read with enthusiasm and never missed a morning. The grandson tried to follow in his footsteps and read daily too. One day, he asked his grandfather, "Grandpa, I try to read like you, but I don't understand anything. Or I might understand a bit, but as soon as I close the book, I forget it all. What's the point of reading so much?" At that moment, the old man was filling the stove with coal. He turned to his grandson and said, "Take this coal basket to the river and bring me back a basket of water." The boy did as he was told, though all the water leaked out before he got back home. Seeing the empty basket, the old man chuckled and said, "All the water leaked out. Maybe you should try running faster next time." Then he told the boy to go back and get a basket of water again. This time the boy ran faster, but once more the basket was empty by the time he got home. Out of breath, he told his grandfather, "It's impossible to carry water in a basket," and went to get a bucket instead. But the old man stopped him. "I didn't ask for a bucket of water. I want a basket of water. You can do it. Just try harder." He sent the boy to the river again. By now, the boy knew it was impossible to hold water in a basket, but he wanted to show his grandfather that no matter how fast he ran, the water would still leak out before he got home. So, he filled the basket again, ran as fast as he could, and arrived with an empty basket. "Look, Grandpa," the boy panted, "it's pointless." "You think it's pointless?" the old man replied. "Take a look at the basket." For the first time, the boy noticed the basket looked different. It was no longer a dirty coal basket but had been cleaned by the water. "My boy, that's what happens when you read. You might not understand or remember everything, but reading changes you inside, just like the water cleaned the basket."
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
20. The true nature of success. Have you ever wondered what success is that so many people spend their lives chasing? Is it about achieving perfection at work, with every detail just right? Or does it mean having a luxurious life that earns the admiration of others? Take a moment to think about it. Life will show you people who find success in surprisingly simple ways. Success is when a father and son gather the courage to cook their mom's favorite dishes on March 8th. The soup might be a bit salty. The fish sauce meant to be deep red turns out almost burnt black. Yet, when mom looks at the dinner table, she smiles. Because the real success isn't mastering the kitchen, but giving mom a rose of love, a gift more meaningful than any expensive present, shining brightly in her eyes. Success is also seen in a boy with a leg deformity who could never walk normally. Ever since he was young, he dreamed of being a soccer player. After years of hard training, he made it as a reserve on a small team, never playing in an official game. But that wasn't a failure. Instead, success bloomed as he, with determination and courage, overcame his circumstances to pursue his childhood dream. How many can claim such a success? After every university entrance exam season, many students feel sad upon finding they didn't score high enough for their first choice. A score of 27 is indeed high, but what use is it if the requirement was 27.5? That's not a failure, just a delayed success. Life still welcomes them with other options. What matters is they tried their best, which is the true essence of these exams and the very nature of success. As a child, I read a moving story about a poor boy describing his mother, a woman who had shielded him throughout his life. He wrote about a mother with gray-streaked hair and rough but gentle hands. His essay was off-topic and he had to rewrite it at home. But that was a true masterpiece, for it was filled with the orphan boy's love for his grandmother. What success could be more sacred than that? Years ago, the media celebrated a poor student who topped the university entrance exam. That was a great success for him. But another silent, monumental success was his father, who for nearly 20 years cycled a rickshaw to support his son's education. The trust and hope evident on his weathered face, and the day his son passed the university exam was also his graduation day as a father. I know a woman who graduated from university with honors nearly 20 years ago. With her talent, she could have achieved career success and fame. But that student chose to sacrifice her opportunities to become a devoted wife and gentle mother of 2 daughters. Even now, as a middle-aged woman, she tells me, taking good care of dad and the kids for mom, that's a great success. Whenever I hear her say this, I tear up. Family is happiness, the beautiful result of her life, and we must thank her for that. Humans always crave success, but blindly pursuing it is pointless. Do you want to be rich, to be a billionaire like Bill Gates? Then carefully fold $1 and hand it to an elderly beggar on the street. With that beautiful act, you show the world that you're not only wealthy in material, but also rich in spirit. That is true success. Sometimes you might dream of success like Abramovich, the owner of a team of stars. Real success isn't far away. Just spend time caring for your team at home. There you'll receive boundless love, something Abramovich can't get from his players. Success comes to everyone in simple and sweet ways. Being born is a great success of your parents. Your duty is to preserve the perfection of that success. Never think of life as a series of failures because, as a British professor once said, in this life there are no failures, only the way we perceive things. For me, success is if someone reads this little piece of writing. It might not score high, but expressing my thoughts on paper, to me, that is a success. 21. Dreams lead to joy. I'm writing this for the vibrant young people brimming with the desire to become someone in the future, to achieve success, happiness, or simply to enjoy numerous joys. I'm just an ordinary outdoor billboard installer, not a writer. Therefore, my words might feel a bit awkward and may not always inspire you, but bear with me. Dreams recreate your desires for beautiful things or logically represent what you think about in reality. Dreams are never reality, but aspirations are desires, destinations, and beautiful wishes. Having aspirations means having a destination, having ambitions to conquer, and striving every day. Imagine you are sitting in a primitive boat without an engine, paddling with all your might in the vast sea. Your life is like being on that boat at sea. You're setting sail and must find land to explore and escape the precarious life on the boat. You tirelessly paddle the boat forward every day, but you don't know where it will end up. You paddle aimlessly, or with the hope and desire that luck will bring you to a place to rest soon. That's what it means to set sail without a destination. In this scenario, you won't have the motivation to try or even the desire to make an effort. You just keep paddling and paddling, not knowing when you'll arrive. Without a dream, you cannot balance your strength or calculate the amount of food you have on the boat. It's all just paddling and waiting for luck. That's why you need to build dreams and ambitions. A dream gives you a clear destination. A dream adds motivation. A dream gives you faith and a sense of direction. A dream tells you that you should never stop. You should never allow yourself to feel sad or disappointed. A dream tells you that if you fall, you must get up because if you don't, you become a failure. You have to stand up because your destination is right there ahead. So, how do you build a dream? First, take some serious, quiet time for yourself. It could be a day without your phone and away from daily life. It could be a night where you don't sleep but just lie there thinking. Think about what you truly like. What do you enjoy doing? What makes you genuinely excited and happy? What can you do endlessly without getting bored? After identifying what you like, look seriously at what abilities you have. What are your talents? What knowledge or education do you have? What skills do you possess? Match what you like with what you have to find your answer. Then, you can start building your dream. For the first 5 years of building your dream, who do you want to become? What kind of person? To reach that goal, who must you become in the first year? What must you do? What about the following years? For example, when I started in advertising 10 years ago, I set a goal to work for the biggest company in the field within 5 years. I gradually worked towards this goal over the years, and due to some luck, I achieved my goal in just 2 years. The result came too quickly while I hadn't built a longer-term dream, so I had to go out and build my own brand, which was tough but necessary. though I must emphasize that timing, location, harmony, and luck accounted for 90% of it. 22. 7 key beliefs of highly successful people. Here's a simplified, culturally adapted English translation of the content. 1. Belief in reasons. Successful people believe that everything happens for a reason. They focus on the positives and see the potential benefits in every situation, no matter how challenging it seems. 2. No failure, only outcomes. They understand that every action results in some sort of outcome. Rather than seeing unsuccessful attempts as failures, they view them as valuable lessons and opportunities to grow and try new approaches. 3. Taking responsibility. Achievers believe that they are responsible for their own outcomes, whether good or bad. By taking responsibility for their actions and thoughts, they create their own experiences and learn from them. 4. Practical knowledge. You don't need to understand every detail to make something useful. Successful people focus on essential knowledge and avoid getting bogged down by every small detail. 5. Valuing people. Exceptional individuals show deep respect and appreciation for others. They believe in teamwork and collective goals, knowing that respecting each individual contributes to greater achievements. 6. Work as play. Those who succeed often find joy in what they do. They blend their passions with their work, which not only enhances their productivity but also brings enjoyment to their tasks. 7. Commitment to success. Lasting success requires significant commitment. Successful people are willing to do whatever it takes, differentiating themselves from others through their dedication. These 7 beliefs can work wonders for many, and they can do the same for you if you commit to applying them in your life. 23. Hospital story. At midnight, a man came to the emergency room with severe abdominal pain. When I came to examine him, he kept mentioning connections. I know Director A. I have business with Manager B. It seemed he thought this would make me treat him more diligently. I responded, please stop mentioning other people's names and positions. Tell me about yourself, your name, your job, and what's ailing you. He was taken aback, and it took him a few minutes to start discussing his symptoms. In everyday life, don't we do the same? We often boast about who we are related to or know instead of focusing on ourselves. But a true adult stands firmly on their own 2 feet, bravely taking responsibility for their life without blaming or depending on others. At 12:30 a.m., a 70-year-old woman was rushed to the emergency room in a severely weakened state, her skin pale and her breath short, with a distinct smell of decay. After stabilizing her, I asked her well-dressed and fragrant daughters about her previous conditions and treatment history. They hesitantly mentioned some cardiovascular issue and lymph node problems, noting she had been struggling to breathe for a month, but they thought it wasn't serious. When asked if they were her daughters, they simply replied, yes, her own daughters. The silence that followed as the test results revealed advanced metastatic lymphoma, lung and brain cancer, diabetes, and kidney failure was profound. You only have one mother. Last week, I attended a funeral of a dear patient and witnessed the youngest child's tears of regret. I haven't seen my mother in 4 months, even though we live just steps apart. I got a call on Saturday afternoon that she had passed away. At 1 a.m., a 23-year-old man came in, emaciated with a mouthful of sores, seeking help for severe diarrhea. When I explained his condition and suggested hospitalization, he refused due to lack of money. Call your parents to the hospital, I suggested. He revealed, my parents divorced when I was very young. I live with my grandma in Vinh Long, and I'm honestly addicted to meth and have HIV. His body was covered in tattoos and his hair dyed yellow, a stark contrast to his gentle demeanor. I just thought coming here would get me immediate help, At 2 a.m., a drunk young man needed stitches for facial and back wounds from a fight. When the nurse asked for his information for administrative purposes, he grew irate. "Why don't you just stitch me up? Why all these pointless questions?" Security was called as he threatened violence, but he fled at the sight of police officers. Fear and weakness often lie behind aggression. At 3 a.m., a 50-year-old man was brought in screaming in pain from a right-side abdominal condition. His family explained he was in the final stages of cancer with extensive pain, which made him shout uncontrollably. The quiet of the night deepened with the weight of his suffering. At 4 a.m., a woman came to the emergency room unable to sleep because of a headache. While I was taking her history, she accused me and the nurse of stealing her phone. It turned out her son had it while handling her hospital admission fees. She thought we were thieves, but it was just a misunderstanding. We often turn to God in times of distress, hoping for justice and kindness. Yet, true strength and peace come from forgiving and giving more, even when we feel wronged or attacked. The Dalai Lama once said that the fullest ears of grain bow down the lowest. Humility and generosity show true strength. 24. Praying hands. In the 15th century, in a small village near Nuremberg, there was a family with many children, 18 to be exact. To provide for the children every day, their father, a jeweler, worked tirelessly nearly 18 hours a day, taking any job the villagers offered him. Despite their hardships, the two eldest sons, Albrecht and Albert, harbored a beautiful dream. Both wanted to pursue a career in art. Sadly, their father could never afford to send them to the academy in Nuremberg. After many long nights discussing on their cramped bed, the brothers devised a plan. They would flip a coin, and the loser would work in a nearby mine to support the other's education for 4 years. After that, the one who studied first would fund the other's education, whether through art sales or mine wages if needed. Together, they flipped the coin. Albrecht won and went off to Nuremberg. Albert began a grueling stint in the mines, regularly sending his modest earnings to his brother. At the academy, Albrecht's artwork was considered revolutionary, surpassing even his seasoned professors. By graduation, he was earning substantial amounts from his art sales. When Albrecht returned to the village, the Dürer family threw a big party to celebrate his success. After a hearty meal filled with laughter and music, Albrecht stood up, raised his glass towards his brother at the end of the table, and expressed his gratitude for the silent sacrifices that had nurtured his artistic ambitions. "And now, dear Albert, it's your turn to make your dream come true. Come to Nuremberg, and I will cover your education." Everyone looked towards the end of the table where Albert sat, tears streaming down his pale, gaunt face. He could only choke out, "No, no, no." Finally, wiping away his tears, Albert stood up, looked lovingly at his family, and said, "Oh, brother, it's too late. I can't go to Nuremberg anymore. Look, the years in the mine have destroyed my hands. Each finger has been crushed at least once, and recently, arthritis in my right hand has made it so I can't even hold a celebratory glass, let alone the delicate strokes of a paintbrush on canvas. It's too late." History moved on, over 450 years into the past. Today, hundreds of Albrecht Dürer's artworks are displayed in major museums around the world. But, strangely, most people know and even hang copies of only one of his works. It's said that one day, to honor his brother's great sacrifice, Albrecht painstakingly recreated every detail of their clasped, bony fingers pointing towards the sky. He simply called the painting Hands, but the world immediately embraced this artistic masterpiece and named it the Praying Hands. If you ever see a copy of this moving piece, take a moment to reflect that this work of art was crafted not just by the hands of an artist, If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 25. The Secret of BáNH RáN. When he turned 5, my son BáNH RáN almost always came home with a new injury every week. Punishments like spanking or making him face the wall were useless. Eventually, I suggested a deal. If for 1 week, BáNH RáN didn't do anything to upset his kindergarten teacher or our neighbors, I would buy him the electric car toy he had wanted. For the next 7 days, my wife and I enjoyed peace at home. After school, he would usually sit and draw quietly. If he went outside to play, his clothes only got a little dirty. We were surprised. Even more surprising, on Sunday when I took BáNH RáN to buy the electric car he had long desired, he insisted on choosing a tricycle with a trailer instead. One day, I secretly followed him as he rode his bike to a nearby playground, carrying some drawings and a boiled potato. BáNH RáN stopped his bike, and a tiny girl with monolid eyes happily ran to him. The two kids sat swinging their legs on a stone bench looking at BáNH RáN's artwork. The girl peeled the potato, breaking off a large piece for BáNH RáN, while she only nibbled on smaller bits. After finishing his share, BáNH RáN longingly watched the girl eat. She immediately offered him a piece of her potato while she continued admiring the drawings. When I got home, I said nothing to my wife. I didn't want to add to her worries about BáNH RáN's romance. BáNH RáN was becoming well-behaved. He eagerly learned to read and do math, but the snacks and fruits in our fridge quickly disappeared. I decided to have a serious talk with my son. BáNH RáN honestly told me about Sue. I asked, "Do you really like your friend Sue?" He nodded. "She's in the same class as me. We keep our pillows and water cups next to each other in the cabinet. At noon, I get the pillow for Sue and she gets the water cup for me, Dad. Sue does the light tasks. I do all the heavy lifting." I felt uneasy, knowing that at home, all chores were handled by my wife and I just read the newspaper and watched TV. I continued, "Do you often take Sue's food?" BáNH RáN tilted his head. "She doesn't like to chew because of a toothache. In class, I let her have my soup." I laughed. "Soon you'll be in first grade and won't be in the same class. Will you miss Sue?" Suddenly, BáNH RáN's eyes widened with concern. "Can I marry Sue, Dad?" I was stunned and joked, "If you get married, how will you two get around?" "I have my tricycle," he replied. "But it will be hard when you have babies," I said seriously. BáNH RáN thought for a long time and then smiled brightly. "Sue will lay an egg, and I'll ask Mom to keep it in the fridge. I'll work hard. When I have enough money, Sue will hatch the egg into a baby. I will take good care of Sue and not let her get tired at all, Dad." I was silent, looking at BáNH RáN. His naive yet mature thoughts were like those of a grown man, full of love, responsibility, and care. Someday BáNH RáN will grow up and probably marry some girl with monolid eyes. Whoever she is, I believe the woman loved by my son will be happy. Because once a man knows how to love his woman, he will try very hard. I learned that wonderful secret from BáNH RáN. 26. The Blind Wife. It seems fate brought him to her. Despite all advice against it, they had a beautiful wedding in a church. He met her while volunteering in a remote area. She was like a wildflower in the mountains. From the very first moment, he fell for the petite, fair-skinned, and innocent girl, despite the fact that she was blind. "I'm blind, it's a disadvantage to marry me. You still have time to change your mind." "Wait and see. I'll never regret this," he whispered, pressing her soft fingers against his cheek. They lived together for 2 years. He became the head of a big hospital. Both were hopeful for a child, which hadn't happened yet. When they got the test results, She shyly nestled into his arm, embarrassed as if she had done something wrong. "It's my fault, isn't it? My hormone levels are low, making it difficult to conceive, but difficult doesn't mean impossible," he reassured her, holding her close, though he couldn't hide the disappointment in his eyes. "It's nobody's fault." A year later, still no signs of a child. He was an only child, and his mother, who never liked his wife, found more reasons to dislike her. Every day when he returned from work, his mother would use this as an excuse to torment her. His wife was too obedient, like keeping a cat that only hovers around you and tries to please you. It can become tiresome. He grew weary, increasingly dreading returning to his own home. That's when Lynn appeared. Lynn was a young and attractive trainee nurse, very different from his wife at home. Lynn willingly fell into his arms. Actually, the charming aura of a city man was enough to make any girl swoon, despite his age and marital status. But he remained faithful until one drunken night. He felt the need to escape. No, he could have left Lynn, but she was like a drug. One taste, and he was addicted to that thrilling sensation. Lynn didn't demand anything from him, and being with her meant no scolding from his mother. But he wasn't even sure if he still loved his wife. Sometimes he confused love with pity. "Are you still going out this late?" she asked, hugging his waist, smelling the masculine scent on his shirt. "Yes, I have an emergency surgery. Go to sleep." "Your shirt smells unusual, but it's nice. Get me a bottle sometime. I like this scent too." She let go of him. The small room was left with the sounds of him changing and his footsteps fading away. Lynn was waiting for him at the gate, greeting him with a passionate kiss. "Stop, Lynn! My wife is still upstairs." He pointed to the second-floor window, knowing his wife's habit of looking out whenever he left. Lynn looked up, smiling. "What's there to worry about? She's blind and can't see anything." Lynn was right. The whole hospital knew about his affair. His mother and sister vaguely guessed it, except for his wife, who remained oblivious. The phone rang, interrupting their moment. Forget it. But the phone kept ringing again and again. He reached for it beside Lynn, who playfully kissed his chest. "Hello? Are you on duty tonight, too?" His wife's gentle voice came through. "Yes. Go to sleep early." Lynn continued to tease him by drawing small circles on his stomach. "Tonight. Can you possibly not be on duty? I'm alone at home. I'm scared." She hesitated. His mother and sister were away at a wedding and wouldn't be back until morning. "The hospital schedule is already set. Go to sleep." He hadn't finished speaking when Lynn swatted the phone aside. "I love you. Tonight, I'll be up here." That night, a heavy rainstorm startled him awake. Lynn was still asleep next to him. He silently dressed and headed home. Halfway there, his phone vibrated with a call from the hospital. A chilling feeling washed over him as his hand shook while answering. "Sir, your wife, she's just been rushed into the emergency room." The hospital was eerily quiet. He arrived breathless, the emergency room lights still on. His sister-in-law sat on the waiting chairs, pale with worry. He hadn't even asked when his sister-in-law slapped him. "Weren't you supposed to be on duty here tonight? Why are you here looking disheveled?" She... The person inside was his wife, in the very room where people face death closest. "Do you know how a blind person lives? By intuition. She's not stupid. She knows about your affair. A month ago, I took her to the hotel where you took that woman. Do you know what she said? She's lucky she's blind. She didn't see anything. Meaning you were still only hers." Another slap. People in the hospital looked on with pity as the distinguished director received 2 slaps from a woman. His ears rang. She had known all along? "I came to your house, where your mother and sister treat her worse than a dog. She has no friends. Her phone has only 2 numbers, yours and mine. Yet when she fell, she didn't dare call her own husband. He clasped his hands in prayer, his face tear-stained. After a while, his wife's sister stood up, speaking slowly. "My sister is afraid of thunder. Didn't you know? She fell down the stairs, hit her head on the fish tank. Also, she was 2 months pregnant. The cold room had all its windows shut and curtains drawn. She lay on the bed, her lips pale. In her dream, tears streamed down her face. It had been so long since he had faced her like this, so long that he no longer remembered her smile. He had been so neglectful, he didn't even know his wife was pregnant. She had become so thin, blue veins visible on her skin, eliciting pity from anyone who saw. I asked you to come home, didn't I? Now it's too late. She was only 2 months old." She placed her cold, bony hands on his cheek, on his lips. "It's been so long since you last kissed me." He choked on his sobs. Even apologies seemed beyond his right to say to her anymore. "Are you crying? What's left to cry for? You're not wrong. I am. You don't regret. You'll never regret marrying me. But I regret it. I regret marrying you." She let go. Her voice was so light, it seemed it could dissolve into the air at any moment. "It's not good. She's developed a drug resistance. Her blood won't clot." The doctors rushed in again. "Her heart has stopped. Defibrillate once. Defibrillate a second time." 27. Listen to the whispers of your heart. Most people live lives of imitation, their thoughts borrowed from others, their emotions mere quotations. Oscar Wilde. Reading The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. I love the opening where Nick reflects on his father's advice. "When I was younger, more prone to poor habits, my father told me something that I've pondered over for years. Before you criticize anyone, remember that not everyone has had your advantages." It made me dislike judging others, revealing the peculiarities of people, yet also making me a target for those who like to stir trouble. I also enjoy a detail from Doraemon, where whenever Nobita and Doraemon enter a different world, they encounter versions of their friends, but with different personalities. It always brings a smile to my face. Life is similar. Somewhere out there are people like us, and people unlike us. Some enjoy gathering with friends, others love wandering, some prefer staying home reading, and others are fascinated by technology or antiques. Some need to travel the world to feel fulfilled, while others find joy just stepping into their overgrown garden, discovering a new mushroom patch or a lost chicken egg. These excitements can feel very similar, like how people react differently to the majestic Niagara Falls. Some leap with joy, remembering it forever, while others simply say, "Big waterfall, huh?" and forget it as soon as they get home. Why be surprised or annoyed by this? Why should everyone react the same way? We often hear a miser judging others for being wasteful, or a homebody criticizing those who don't spend enough time with family. These judgments fill our days until we grow tired and learn to ignore them, realizing that we shouldn't judge others so readily. Years ago, when cars were still a luxury in Vietnam, a friend saved and borrowed to buy an old car. Despite his modest income and rented home, his family criticized him for being wasteful. Colleagues whispered he was showing off, and friends suspected he was pretending to be posh. He shared with me his lifelong dream of driving through forests and beaches, and so he saved until he could afford his own car. He asked me why he should delay his dreams just because others might misjudge him. Why should he live by someone else's standards? I couldn't find a convincing answer to his question, reminding me that often we worry too much about what others have said, will say, or might say, instead of living true to ourselves. Another friend of mine pursued charity work initially out of compassion, then for personal joy, feeling it was a debt of gratitude, and finally as a way of life. Yet she often cried over harsh words from others. Even when our actions are entirely selfless, they can't prevent prejudice or spiteful gossip. Why not calmly move beyond it? Sometimes people feel entitled to judge others based on their preconceptions, never accepting differences. The worst part is when we let ourselves get caught in that net of judgment. If living by our own prejudices is bad, being controlled by others is worse. Why not stop being fearful and start listening to ourselves? My father taught me a simple life principle: respect others first, then listen to yourself. Respect because life is diverse and no way of living is a standard for judging another. John Mason wrote, "You were born an original, don't die a copy." It's an interesting book that highlights that everyone is unique and deserves respect. I always keep this principle like shoes I wear before leaving home. Put on those shoes and walk wherever you want in the world. We don't choose our appearance, personality, talents, or wealth at birth, but we have a unique chance to be ourselves. We have one opportunity to live as we wish, believe what we believe, create what we dream, pursue what we desire, love whom we love. Life is brief compared to the stars. So don't let the noise of others drown out your own voice. Listen to the whispers of your heart.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
28. 2 beggars attend a wedding. On my wedding day, my mother asked me, "Who are those 2 looking like beggars sitting in that secluded spot?" When I looked over, I saw an old man staring at me with an old woman by his side. As they noticed me looking, they quickly looked down. I didn't know them, but they didn't look like typical beggars. Their clothes were fairly new. What made my mom think they were beggars was their hunched backs and the walking stick beside them. My mom said that since Thien Tree was an orphan with no relatives attending, if these 2 weren't acquaintances, we should ask them to leave. People nowadays, beggars especially, often hang around restaurant doors, crashing parties pretending to be relatives, she added. I said, "I don't think that's the case, Mom. Let me ask Thien Tree to see what's up." Thien Tree was shocked and dropped the bouquet I was holding. Finally, he hesitantly admitted they were his uncle and aunt. I glanced at my mom, signaling we almost turned away our own relatives. Mom asked, "Thien Tree, aren't you an orphan? Then where did these relatives come from?" Thien Tree, scared, looked down and said they were distant relatives he hadn't been in touch with for a long time. He regretted not having any family at his wedding. I leaned on Thien Tree's shoulder, scolding him for not telling us sooner so we could have arranged a proper table for them. Thien Tree stopped me, suggesting they were fine where they were, feeling more comfortable at a different table. Even as the party started, the uncle and aunt remained at that table. When we went around toasting, Thien Tree hesitated and quickly pulled me past them. I looked back, saw their bowed heads, and thought for a moment before pulling Thien Tree back to them. "Uncle, Aunt, we would like to offer a toast to you." They looked up, somewhat surprised. Both were quite old, in their 70s or 80s, with deep-set eyes. The aunt's eyes fluttered, unseeing. It turned out she was blind. Uncle, Aunt, this is Thien Tree's wife, and we'd like to toast to you." The uncle struggled to stand, leaning on the aunt with one hand and shakily lifting his glass with the other. His palms were calloused, and there was dirt under his thick fingernails. Years of hard labor had bent their backs early. I was stunned to see that the uncle was also missing a leg. The aunt was blind and the uncle was lame. How could such a couple exist? "Please don't stand. Have a seat," I urged them. I helped them sit down. The uncle sat with a stagger, and for some reason the aunt's tears kept flowing while the uncle quietly patted her back. I wanted to comfort them, but Thien Tree pulled me away. I told Thien Tri to give them some money when they left because they both were disabled and I wondered how they'd manage in the future. Thien Tri just nodded silently, holding me close. The first New Year's Eve after the wedding, Thien Tri said his stomach hurt, so he skipped dinner and went to bed early. I told my mother to cook some porridge, and I followed him to the room. Thien Tri lay there, tears still in his eyes. I told him, "It's New Year's Eve, you shouldn't skip dinner with the family and just run off to your room. It's like you're saying my family treats you poorly. Every holiday you say your stomach hurts. What's really going on?" Thien Tri looked sad for a while, then said, "Sorry, I just miss my uncle and aunt and my parents who have passed away. I feared I couldn't hold back my tears at dinner, which would upset them." I hugged him and said, "Silly, if you miss them, we should visit them after the new year. I also want to know how they are living." Thien Tri replied, "Let's wait until the roads are better. By then we might have kids and we can take them to visit." In my heart, I wanted to say, by the time we have kids, they might not be around. But I didn't dare speak it aloud, only suggesting we send some money and supplies for now. The second Mid-Autumn Festival. I was away on a business trip during Mid-Autumn Festival and couldn't return home. I missed Thien Tri and my parents, so I called him, but it took a while to get through. I asked Thien Tri how he managed to sleep when he missed me. He said he'd browse the internet or watch TV, and if that didn't work, he'd just lie there, wide-eyed, thinking of me. That night, we talked until his phone battery died. I wanted to tease him a bit, but unexpectedly. Lying in the hotel bed, looking at the full moon outside the window, I couldn't sleep, tears streaming down my face. I really missed Thien Tri and my parents. Thinking Thien Tri probably couldn't sleep either and might still be online, I got up, turned on my computer, and created a new account called Listening to Your Heart to tease him. Sure enough, I found Thien Tri online and initiated a chat. He accepted. I asked him, "On this Mid-Autumn Festival when families reunite, why are you still browsing the internet?" He replied, "Because my wife is away on a business trip, I can't sleep and miss her, so I'm online to see what's up." I was pleased with his response. I typed further, "With your wife not around, you could find another lover to talk to online, someone to confide in and comfort yourself a bit." After a long pause, he responded, "If you're looking for a lover, then sorry. I'm not the person you're looking for. Goodbye." "Sorry, I didn't mean that, don't be mad," I quickly messaged him. A bit later, he asked me, "Why are you browsing the internet?" I replied, "I'm working outside, feeling really homesick. I just finished talking to my boyfriend, but I still can't sleep, so I came online to distract myself. I also miss my parents a lot, but my relatives are away, and I wish I could take care of them, but can't," he said. "What do you mean by relatives are away, and I wish I could take care of them but can't?" I repeated his words and sent them back. I was a bit puzzled. Why would Thien Tri say something like that? He replied, "You're called listening to your heart, so today I'll tell you. Keeping things bottled up for too long can make you sick, so it's better to talk about them. Anyway, we don't know each other, so just listen as if it's just a story." That's how I accidentally learned the story Thien Tri had been hiding for so long. 30 years ago, when my father was nearly 50 years old and still unmarried because of his disability and our poor family background, no girl wanted to marry into our family. Later, a beggar in the village brought his blind daughter. The old man was very ill, and my father, feeling pity for them, invited them to rest at our house. Unexpectedly, the man couldn't get up again, and later, his blind daughter married my father. 2 years later, I was born. We lived a very hard life, but I never went hungry. Our family, children, elderly parents. My parents couldn't farm or earn an income, so they had to shuck corn for people, their fingers blistering and bleeding each day. The next day, they'd wrap their fingers in cloth and continue. To ensure I could go to school, my parents kept 3 chickens at home. 2 were for selling eggs for money, and 1 was for eggs for me to eat. Mom said that when she begged in the city, she heard that city kids who went to school ate chicken eggs and that our child should eat them too, to be smarter than other city kids. Yet they never ate themselves. Once I saw Mom crack an egg into the pot and then lick the remaining whites from the shell. I hugged her and cried bitterly. No matter what, I refused to eat eggs anymore. After learning the whole story, Dad was so angry he wanted to hit Mom with a stick. Eventually, I compromised, insisting that the egg be divided equally among the 3 of us. Although they agreed, they only nibbled a bite or 2 each time. People in the village never called me by my name, but always referred to me as the child of the lame husband and blind wife. Whenever my parents heard someone call me that, they would go mad at them. Mom, unable to see, would throw bricks randomly, shouting, "Damn your families, we may be lame and blind, but our child is normal and healthy, so you have no right to call him that. One day, none of your children will match up to ours." That year, during the high school exam, the son of the lame-blind couple got the first prize in the district, truly a proud moment for them. Everyone in the town paid for my school fees, and on the day I went to the city to study, my father also stepped out of our remote village for the first time. As I boarded the bus, tears streamed down my face. Dad, leaning on his stick with one hand, wiped my tears with the other. Study hard in the city, find a job there, and get married. If anyone asks about your parents, say you are an orphan. Otherwise, they'll look down on you. Especially, you won't be able to get married. People will ridicule you. If that ruins your chance of marriage, how will I ever face our ancestors? Dad, I told him to stop. What are these words? Only worthless people refuse to acknowledge their parents. Mom also said, "These words are all true. You must listen. Do you remember at school? Just saying you are the child of the lame-blind couple in the village, people immediately despised and mocked you. At first, even the teachers at school didn't like you. Later, if you bring a wife from the city, just say, 'We are your uncle and aunt.'" After speaking, she sobbed and wiped her tears. Dad said, "It's best not to bring your wife home. If you do, your mom won't be able to hold back, and all will be revealed, which is dangerous." Then he stuffed 10 boiled chicken eggs into my arms and led Mom away. I stood there watching their figures disappear, tears flowing non-stop. Hearing this, the corners of my eyes suddenly felt hot. Disability isn't their fault. It's just the fate they were dealt. But they gave me a perfect Thien tree. This silly Thien tree, with parents like this, who else could claim to have more perfect parents? I was really angry. How could he look down on me like this? So afterward, did you tell your wife they were really your uncle and aunt? I typed this question and sent it to him. I didn't believe it. The wife I sought was for me, not for my parents. Why couldn't I even acknowledge my own parents? Yet, I had been away for 10 years, and my parents never visited my school even once. The first year I worked, I wanted to bring them to the city for a visit, but they refused, saying if by chance someone found out my parents were disabled, they'd smear dirt on my face, affecting my marriage prospects. Relatives are away, and I wish I could fulfill my filial duties but can't. Their whole lives, they stayed in the remote mountains, never wanting to go out. Mom said she came from the city, but what does that even mean? Later, I met a girlfriend, and when I thought the time was right, I brought her home for a visit. Unexpectedly, after arriving at our house, she hadn't even eaten a meal before she left. I hurried after her, and she said if she had to live with people like that, she couldn't stand even one day. She also said our family genes were problematic, and any children we had would definitely not be healthy. Hearing these words, I was so angry I told her to go as far away as she could. When I got home, my mom was crying bitterly and Dad kept scolding me. They told me not to listen to what they said, not wanting to break our family lineage. Later, I met my second girlfriend, who is now my wife. I love her very much, even fearing in my dreams that I might lose her. Her family is wealthy, and her relatives are influential people in society. Having been burnt once before, I was scared and had to act as an unfilial son. But every holiday, I think of them, feeling like there's a heavy stone on my heart, making me very uncomfortable. So, you've never told your wife before. What if she understands? I've never said it nor dared to. If she accepts, I think my mother-in-law won't. I live with them. Her father is a very reputable person outside. If my parents come, won't that smear dirt on their faces? I can only take the opportunity when I'm away on business trips or studying to secretly visit them for a while. Thank you for listening to me so much. My heart feels much lighter now. After turning off the computer, I still couldn't sleep. Everyone says children don't despise their ugly mothers, and dogs don't scorn their poor homes. But look what we've done. I understand Thien Tri's predicament and the heartache of his parents, but they don't know they've inadvertently pushed an innocent like me into an absurd predicament. As soon as dawn broke, I knocked on the director's door, telling him to handle the remaining matters himself as I had something extremely important to do immediately. Everything now depended on him. Then I quickly packed a few things and headed straight to the train station. Fortunately, I caught the first train. The mountain road was indeed very difficult. Just starting out, my legs were already aching without any strength left, and later, my feet swelled up, unable to go any further. At midday, under the scorching sun, I had to sit and rest by the roadside for a while. The drinking water I carried was almost finished, and I didn't know how much further I had to go. Taking off my shoes, I squeezed the blisters on my feet, crying out in pain. I really wanted to call Thien Tri to pick me up and take me home, but I had to endure. I grabbed a handful of reeds from the roadside and placed them under my feet, which felt much better. Thinking of Thien Tri's parents still working hard at home suddenly filled my legs with strength, and I stood up to continue walking towards them. When the village head led me to the front of Thien Tri's house, the evening sky was aglow, illuminating the old apple tree in front of their house. Under the apple tree, Thien Tri's uncle, no, his father, was sitting there, looking even older than at the wedding. He was peeling corn kernels, his cane quietly leaning against his lame leg. His mother was kneeling on the ground preparing to gather the dried corn, her hands collecting the kernels into piles. It was like a painting in which the perfect father and mother in the world were the subjects. I walked towards them step by step. Dad saw me and dropped the corn cob he was holding, his mouth wide open in shock, asking, "Child, why are you here?" Mom next to him asked, "Who is it, dear?" "Thien Tri's wife." "Where?" Mom panicked, reaching out to find me. I bent down, set my luggage on the ground, then tightly grasped her hand and knelt down, choking up as I told my parents-in-law, "Dad! Mom! I've come to take you home!" Dad coughed a few times, tears streaming down his deeply wrinkled face. "I've always said, our son hasn't raised us for nothing." And Mom hugged me tightly, tears from her eyes streaming down my neck. When I led my parents-in-law away, everyone in the village set off fireworks in celebration. Once again, I felt proud of my parents-in-law. When Thien Tri opened the door and saw his parents standing on either side of me, he was astonished, speechless like a log. I said, "Thien Tri, I'm the one who heard your story. I've brought our parents home. With such perfect parents, how could you bear to leave them in such a remote, desolate mountain area?" Thien Tri cried silently, hugging me tightly, tears streaming down his neck like his mother's. Father and mother, two sacred words, encompass all the love in the world, truly worth devoting our lives to calling out. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.